So I'm going to start off our talk today with a Zen Buddhist parable. A farmer's horse had escaped. His neighbors saw this as misfortune and expressed sympathy, and he said, "Who knows what is good or bad?" A few days later, the horse returned with a herd of wild horses, and the neighbors were overjoyed and exclaimed about his good fortune. And he responded, "Who knows what's bad or good?" The farmer's son hold one moment. I'm going to go to paper and see if there's any chance it's my fault. Is there any chance it's my fault? All righty, I apologize for that. We're having sound issues this morning. All righty, so I'll start again. A farmer's horse ran away, and the neighbors of the farmer said, "Oh, this is just so sad. It's so bad." And the farmer said, "It's who knows whether or not it's good or bad." The farmer's horse came back with a herd of wild horses. The neighbors were happy for the farmer. And he said, "Who knows whether it's good or bad?" The farmer's son broke his leg trying to train the wild horses. And the neighbors said, "Oh, that's just so bad and so sad." And he said, "Who knows whether it's good or bad?" Then soldiers came through their village, gathering young men to go to war on behalf of the army, but they rejected his son because his leg was broken. So the neighbors said, "This is great news." And he said, "Who knows whether or not it's good or bad?" I tell you what, I'm going to need my PC. Is it okay? All right. Thanks. And so that story is about not labeling events that occur in your life as good or bad, because later down the road they can swap. That thing that I thought was so bad turns out it was a good thing. The thing that I thought was so good turns out wasn't a good thing. So how do we deal with the challenges we're dealing with right now? And we might be looking at it and thinking that's a bad thing, but later it becomes a good thing in time. I think for myself, a lot of us are judging things based on past experiences, and we have to be open more to what's going on, to new ideas. So when I was 19 years old, 1984, I had finished nursing school by then, and I was working in the ICU, medical ICU at Grady Hospital. And I went to my first gay pride in Atlanta. I got hired in June, so this was like the end of the month back then. And back then, corporations weren't out there. The Atlanta PD wasn't marching to say we're your friend. It was just some drag queens, leather men, and gay men who hadn't been to bed yet. John Lewis was out there walking along beside us. And at the time, I didn't know who he was, but I knew his face. I had seen him on TV. And he walked on our behalf year after year after year, long after I had decided I've had enough of gay pride. That same year, I remember very specifically having this conversation at Grady with my coworkers. Coretta Scott King made a statement that she thought the gay community deserved the same civil rights as the straight community. And so remember, this was in the time of the AIDS crisis. Ministers were saying, this was the devil getting even with us. And so for her to have said that was a big deal, it made the news. Her own children didn't support her in that. When they went for some sort of follow-up comment, they weren't in alignment with that. But if you look at gay men with AIDS or any of the gay-specific issues at that time we thought was gay and gay issue, they weren't able to stay with their partner at the hospital. They were not able to be listed as next of kin on the paperwork. If they were not able to stay in the home they had together, and usually all that stuff went to the family of the person that died, and that family they had often hadn't seen in 20 years. So what I like to think of today is that John Lewis and Mrs. King, and I call her Mrs. King because I worked with her for a while. I got the privilege of working with her. They were holding a higher thought for us. A thought up here is the way my teacher used to say it. They were holding a thought of civil rights for all. And at that time, I couldn't grasp that thought. I thought something was terribly wrong with me. I had never fit in anywhere. The only way I was going to have a life was to go somewhere else where nobody knew me. And then maybe I could have a decent life. And so, Mrs. King died of cancer. I want to say probably like 2009, 2010, but I could be wrong. John Lewis kept marching. And as we got closer to 2015, remember they were affirming us all that time. As we got closer to it, I started thinking, yes, I deserve to be married. I deserve to have whatever rights that brings about. And so I got that thought. And it came to me. And so I was thinking, how long did they hold that thought? That was a powerful, powerful lesson. How long can you hold a thought if you're a practitioner or a minister, or just somebody saying an affirmation? Can you hold it a week? You say it one time and we're done? Well, it might be, you never know. But when do you give up on that thought? A month out? A year out? 5 years out? They didn't let go, and they held on to it long past what we thought was necessary. I would have just assumed it's never going to happen. And in fact, I did think that, and I thought, well, at least my niece, it will happen for her, but I don't think it's going to happen in my lifetime. So how do you hold that thought so firmly? Not being distracted. I think of Mrs. King, always very settled, very elegant, at peace. I never saw her ever getting thrown off by circumstances. If people were getting killed by the police in various places like Philadelphia and LA, she would go up there with a training program, rubber bullets, tasers. She brought all of that out, pepper spray, anything you could do that wouldn't kill the person the police were after. She would just take off and go handle that, and she was never, never off center. So as we look at the news now, we see a lot going on. ICE in LA. We're seeing people sent to countries far, far away from their home. And it's very upsetting to some of us. To me, it's upsetting. I'm amazed that there are other wonderful people out there that say this should have happened a long time ago. And it's like a 50-50% of the population split. And so for me, that kind of stuff can throw me off. It upsets me. I go off onto a tangent in my mind, and it harms me ultimately because I have gone off on a tangent. I'm not holding on to what my affirmation is or my treatment is. I'm not paying attention to that vision board. So it's actually hurting me. And when I look back at our training, We always had one student come in and say, raise their hand and say, what about Hitler? Right? That happened week after week after week. And we know that things shifted and corrected with time. And I think it applies now. We might want to say, I can't deal with this Trump stuff, but I was dealing with Hitler stuff long after it happened. I was able to say, yes, that was bad, but it wasn't all consuming me because it was behind me. So we have to have that in any situation we're in right now that challenges us, that makes it hard for us to have a better and better and better existence. Darrell Jones was a CSL minister. He still is. He used to work at the home office. And he's an author, and he wrote, there is so much God to consider. He's right. He's talking about omnipresence. There is no absence of God. When ICE was in LA, there's no absence of God in that. So when did we release God from the present moment? Yea, though I walk through the valley and the shadow of death, I will fear no evil. That power and presence is already within me and within you. And it's within all those people in the dark alley. It's hidden in plain sight. In Islam, they say it's closer to you than your neck vein. When I was working with the homeless, I would literally walk through many a dark alley at night as I checked in on people that didn't make it in for dinner. Sometimes I had something to give to somebody and I needed to go out and find them. I was never afraid, not once. I think I was consumed in the love of that activity. And I was happy to drive my car in a dark alley, just stop, pop out, and go over and give certain people certain things. And one of my friends mentioned to me, driving a Mercedes, and you're a man in your 50s at that time, the police may think you're a customer. You fall into that category where you might be a customer. And so we came up with the idea to hang a chaplain's skull on the rearview mirror. So if any police came looking around, they could see that. But anyway, these people were wonderful. I loved them. I felt the love coming from them. It draws together like the law of attraction. I did my best to hold consciousness for them, but not try to treat for them. Because unless someone asks you to treat for them, you leave them alone. But I can hold the consciousness of love and respect. And I think that builds. I don't know how long it takes, but I think it builds. And I watched people get a home somewhere between 2 or 3 years of being out on the street. And then also some people weren't going to get in a home, and so they just remained on the street. Zen Buddhism teaches that all beings, children, parents, even those who enact harmful policies, possess the Buddha nature, especially those that are vulnerable or suffering. To harm the least among us has more negative outcomes to the person doing the cruelty because that person is innocent or in need of help. And in religious science, we say we are all containers for the love of God. We're containers for the wisdom of God. We're containers for the creativity of God. It's our job to let it out in rich abundance. It's interesting to me that it's the same for Zen Buddhism. We also don't want to reduce the perpetrators of what we think is cruel, or the victims, or that's who we're thinking are getting the cruelty, to simple labels. But instead, we want to understand the causes of suffering in a deep and non-dualistic way. There is no us versus them in this teaching, or any of the other oneness teachings. Ernest Holmes used to say, there is no devil, and God is love. So can you know the presence of love in every situation? Can you know that it is within you, no matter where you are or what you're doing? You sometimes forget, get thrown off, get caught up in something, and then remember, oh, I got off key there. My faith is very strong, but I've had years and years to work on it. And it is an endless curriculum, as they say. So do you believe in this teaching when you're getting the up-close parking spaces at Kroger, but not when you see something going downhill, something upsetting to you? How strong is your faith in both situations? Are you saying you're open to the good that is available to you, but not receiving it? Do you know from a very young age, we had ideas float in of things that we could do? We say these are ideas from spirit, but they could be ideas from the creative aspect of ourselves or of our higher self, depending on how you language all of that. So we had these great ideas. They were already a fully formed manifestation from beginning to the end as it hits us. And we didn't take the universe up on it. We just said, oh no, that's not for me. Or, oh no, my family doesn't do things like that. Or, oh no, I'm not prosperous enough to do that. I'll just go to the bar and drink. So I've been thinking about this, and I'm contemplating it every day, looking back, what opportunities I didn't take the universe up on. What opportunities came to me that I thought were not for me. And I encourage you to do that and to jump out and follow that passion, follow that action that's shown up for you. New thought is not passive. It embodies compassionate action, rooted in direct experience and not abstract ideas. When policies cause children to be traumatized, that's where it gets me up. Zen practitioners might bear witness to the suffering as taught by the Zen peacemakers, speak out and act, not from anger or ego, but from clarity and care. Support the healing for both victims and for those in act and harm without denying injustice. And so we go back to the farmer and his horse. And do we say it was good or it was bad, or do we leave it open? I'd rather leave it open than to limit it by labeling it as something bad. Who knows what's going to come in our future, and I think we're going to see some things from this era that are a benefit down the road. So is there possibility within the thing, the object? Yes, there's possibility. And so our affirmation for today is, I am the way that love is revealed in the world. What I need to know will unfold for me at just the right time. And so it is. Thank you.